Hello everybody, this is Niclas Huschenbeth, and today I would like to show you my game against international master Kirill Shevchenko from the 8th round of the Pfalz Open 2017. And just to give you a little bit of a background, so it's the 8th round. I had 6 points and 6 out of 7, and my opponent had 6.5 out of 7. He had played a phenomenal tournament, and it was clear if I want to catch him, I would need to win with the black pieces. So let's get into this and see what happened. He started with e4, and I expected this because he always plays e4, and he was probably expecting me to play my knight off, and I thought about it, but then I decided to go for my first dragon game ever, because I noticed that he hadn't played the most critical lines there. Bishop e3, bishop g7, and now I prepared for bishop e2, which I also play myself, so I know it quite well. So I just want to surprise him, and it worked like a charm. He didn't go bishop e2, he went f3 instead, which is the main move. Castle, queen d2, knight c6, and here there are two huge lines, one with bishop c4 and one with long castle. There's also another move, and that's the move he played, g4, which I was very happy to see because I've played this move several times myself with white, so I know quite a bit about this move. And it turns out he didn't know as much. The main move is bishop e6, that's what I played. Knight takes, f-pawn, f takes back, castle, and now knight e5, threatening knight takes f3, bishop e2. And now queen c8 is an important move here, precise move. You go to c8 because if queen c7, then that would allow the knight to come to d4 with tempo via b5. So queen c8, preparing knight c4. And here the main move, and definitely most critical move, is h4. But he, after quite a think, played rook hf1, which is not posing any problems for black. I still went knight c4, bishop takes, queen d3. And I just want to say here he offered a draw, which is not quite true. So this may be something for you guys to take away here. He played this move. I fought for, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. I fought for a while because it was not that easy. And then he offered a draw. And that's usually, well, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to interrupt your opponent's thinking with a draw for you. You're supposed to offer a draw when you make the move. So for you guys watching, I'm sure most of you are familiar with this unspoken rule, but if not, now you know it. All right, so I declined and played rook a8. Now he took on c4 and played rather quickly knight b5. So why can't white take on a7? Well, then I can go, what did I want to do here? Knight d7, exactly. Threatening b6 as well as taking on c3, and this would be great for white. So knight b5, and now went a6, and I was wondering what he wants to do here. Because if he goes knight d4, which he didn't play, he went b3, then I can go knight takes g4 and win a pawn. F takes, rook takes f1, rook takes back, and bishop takes d4. And I've won a pawn, and obviously a very good winning chance in the endgame. Knight c3 back looks strange, and knight a3 also looks strange, so you went b3. And what did I do here? This is a tactic for you guys. What did I play with black in this position? And really take your time here. This is not an easy position to calculate, or the variations are rather, there's a lot going on, let's put it like this. Even though it doesn't look like it right now, there's a lot going on here. So stop the video and try to figure that out. Alright, I could retreat with the rook, that would be completely fine. Rook c8, knight d4, king f7. And black is completely fine. But knight takes g4 is possible. And I believe this is giving black an advantage. So first off, what's the point? What if, well, first we need to check what happens if white takes pieces, right? So if he takes the rook, that's very simple. Knight takes e3, forking the rooks, and also this knight is still attacked. Black is regaining the exchange and is just winning. And if white takes on g4, black takes on e4. Attacking this bishop, the knight is still under attack, and black will regain the piece with interest in form of pawns. So this is just straightforward. The question is, what happens after bishop g1? And this is what my opponent played. Moves away the bishop, and now still all my pieces are hanging. Well, I retreat with the rook, and I went to c6. And now my opponent played knight a7, which I believe is a mistake. I expected knight takes d6. Now I would have replied with e takes d6, because if knight e5, there's knight takes b7, which isn't clear to me. So e takes d6, f takes g4. The material is equal, but I have the better pawn structure, and I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do here. Well, I think I want to go rook fc8, forcing rook f2, and then we'll see. I think white should be able to hold this, but black has nicer play. So knight a7, which makes sense to attack the rook, and still having the knight attacked on g4. But I can reply with knight takes h2, counterattacking the rook on f1. So here my opponent took on c6. What happens if he takes on h2? Well, then I want to go rook c3 and go after this pawn. And I already have 2 pawns for the piece. And as you might notice, this knight is not going anywhere anytime soon. So while the computer gives this as a better option for white, as about equal, I think personally that this is probably lost for white, because I have active pieces, 2 pawns already. The knight is not coming back into the game. Always white has to watch out about it being trapped, or it is already trapped, but being taken. So I think this is great for black. And my opponent probably thought the same. So he took on c6, knight takes f1, knight takes e7 check, king f7, and knight takes g6. So white is regaining the pawns here that he had lost earlier. And now I played bishop h6 check, king h2, king b2, sorry. And now I played rook g8, which is maybe a little bit too fancy. I mean, I think it's decent, but I could have also just taken back the knight on g6, rook takes f1, bishop f4. And also, I have good chance here because I have a passed pawn on the h file, and that's quite a key piece here in this position. So I went rook g8 to get my rook on the g file immediately. That made sense to me. And he played knight h8 check, which is also maybe again too fancy. White should probably just take back on f1. Rook takes g6 and bring the king closer. And probably should be able to hold this. Rook g2 and f4. And this seems holdable for black. For white, excuse me. Knight h8 makes it more difficult for white. Rook takes, and now first it looks like my rook is in the corner. It's not well placed, but actually it is perfectly placed because supporting the h-pawn along the h-file. And this is what I'm doing, sending Harry the h-pawn, king d3, h4, bishop e3. So this was what my opponent was relying on, going into his rook endgame. But turns out this rook endgame is also quite difficult. So we have this position, I still have the past h-pawn, and I also have a possible entry route into a white position. So let's see what happens. King e2, and now I decided to play b5 to fix the pawns here on the queen side and to have this idea potential of going rook c8. For example, after king f2, I could go rook c8 and go after this pawn. So he decided to play c3, and now h3, king f2, king e6, and white has to do something, otherwise I can just keep improving my position. So he goes king g1, but now I can put my rook on g3, where it nicely protects my own pawn as well as attacks it defends my own pawn, it attacks the pawn on f3. And all white can do here really is wait with the rook, go back and forth. Rook f2, a5, and now this is actually a critical moment. Here the position is a draw. It's not easy though for white. White would need to find this move, a4, to stop me from going b4. And now I thought I still have good chances here because I might be able to get in to c4. But it turns out that once I play d5, white can go rook d2 check. If king c4, rook d4 check. And if king c5, white doesn't go back but goes to d3. And it turns out this is a draw. White can barely hold this. But he missed this, and he was really low on time as well. So he went king h1. Now I can go b4, and why am I doing all of this? Well, the point is that I want to create an entry route for my king, and I have just done so. And now the king is coming. King e5, king h2, king d4, rook d2 check, and this is the moment where the indescribable happens. I hope this is a word. I went back. Even though king e3 is winning, is natural, and just makes a whole lot of sense. Why did I do this? So let's what's the word? Decompose? No. Let's analyze this mistake. Where is it coming from? Well, this was the 40th move. And I didn't have that much time left. I wasn't quite sure. So I want to make a safety move, get a half an hour on the clock, and then calculate. Because I thought, well, he's just going to go back, right? No, he wasn't. Also part of this mistake is that I didn't have to take action here already. If I want to wait for a moment, I could have just played king e6 here. He goes king h1 again. I make the 40th move, and I have all the time in the world to calculate king d4 and what happens there. So this is the lesson for you guys here. Don't take any big action if you're in time trial, if you don't have to. I mean, this is always, you have to check. But in this position, I really have all the time in the world. White cannot move a finger. I hope this is an expression in English. So I didn't have to do this. Well, I was very confident king e3 is winning, but for some reason, okay, let's stop talking about it and let's see what happened in the game. Well, first let's see how king e3 is winning, I guess. Rook takes d6, king takes f3. I saw all of this. Now this pawn is under attack, so e5. And here I want to go rook g2 check and rook g5. And what I wasn't sure about, now it's checkmate threat, was this position, rook d5. But here I can just retreat and this pawn will run through, and a5 pawn doesn't matter. White will take too long and it's winning. But actually this is a simpler way to do this. After e5, there's a nice move here, king e2, to open up the f-pawn and also to open up the rook. And it's a simple counting here, rook e3, f3, these are all the next moves for white. So all white can do is push his own pawn, but it's just one move too slow. I queen first, and of course it's an immediate checkmate here on g2. So that's all to be calculated there really after king e2. I didn't see king e2 unfortunately, otherwise I probably would have played this. Anyways, let's see what happened in the game. Actually white already has two ways to draw this here. Rook d5 is also quite possible. It makes so much sense. You don't want your opponent's rook to be activated in the rook endgame. Activity is a key element in the endgame. But he played c5 and that works just fine. So let's see what's going on here. Why is this a draw? Well, here he can always play rook f5. That's the key point if I move my rook. That's all. So I tried on for a while, but to no prevail. So let's see when something will happen again, which is around here. So I played on with rook e3, rook b5 again. No, hold on. Now I have... No. Yeah, I was confused. Exactly. This is the right move order. I was confused when I entered this game, so I have two variations here. all the rook moves. So this is the line. So now rook b5 makes more sense. King d6 check, and rook f5 again to keep an eye on this pawn. And now, yeah, I went for this, and you know, I just want to try till the end, but it's not enough. It's just not enough. He has enough play with his pawn, obviously, and it's a draw in many ways. Alright, let's just get to the end here. Rook b6. It's a nice maneuver, by the way, but it's not enough. Because we're both queening at the same time. I played queen f5, offered a draw, which was accepted. Yeah, great mischance. I mean, it really bothered me afterwards. But, well, what can you do? So he managed to win the tournament. He drew the next game quickly, and I managed to win my last game. Also finished on 7.5 out of 9, but he had the better tiebreaks, and he also deservedly won the tournament because he played on the top boards the whole tournament, played against all the strong players. So he won the tournament, and I came in second. All right, so that was my game analysis. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again next time. Bye bye.